Welcome back. Mount St. Mary's University established its annual pilgrimage to France in 2016, inviting faculty, staff, alums, trustees, sisters, and friends to travel together in the footsteps of our founders. President Anne McElhaney Johnson had her own powerful pilgrimage and realized this would be a deep and lasting formation experience for the Mount community. They have conducted 4 such pilgrimages and were set to bring their first group of students in March of 2019. They plan to resume the trips in 2022. We wanted the national gathering to include a touchstone of our heritage, and the CSJ Institute at the Mount offered to guide us through some highlights of their annual pilgrimage. I'm pleased to introduce to you Shannon Green, Director of the CSJ Institute at Mount St. Mary's University.
Thank you, Martha. As Martha stated, our annual pilgrimage to Le Puy, created and led by our president, Anne McElhaney Johnson, is a highlight of our year, and we have missed it these last 2 cycles. We walk through the streets and towns of France together as a community of educators to soak up the spirit of our founders and to ignite our imagination as we advance the charism of unifying love. We have tried to capture this experience through film and most recently with 360-degree photography. So over the next 20 minutes or so, we hope to offer you a taste of our pilgrimage through these various media. I will be your guide, and I am assisted by Angela Abruzzi, an instructional designer at the Mount, and Meredith Lynch, our assistant director at the CSJ Institute. A pilgrimage is meant to be time set apart, not just to experience a culture or see a beautiful place, but to travel with an open heart and a reflective spirit, and to allow the journey, the people, and the places to change us. When we return home, we are no longer the same. We not only know our history more deeply, but we come to understand our place in this living heritage. We will offer a few moments to pause for personal reflection along the way, but sit back and enjoy the journey. And please note, with 360-degree footage, there will be moments of walking and where the image will turn. We do our best to keep you steady. And for optimal viewing, you may want to enter into full screen mode while minimizing the speaker or camera thumbnail. Feel free to put questions or comments in the chat and we will respond to them at a later time. Please enjoy the presentation. The Sisters of St. Joseph were founded in 1650 in the city of Le Puy, France. The city of Le Puy has been a destination of pilgrims for over 1,000 years. Its striking volcanic peaks have drawn seekers of healing and spiritual renewal for centuries. Monuments are built atop each peak, including the statues of the Virgin Mary and St. Joseph, as well as the Cathedral Notre Dame de Puy. This view is atop the Rocher Saint-Michel on the outskirts of the city. We have climbed 268 stairs up the Rocher to reach the chapel dedicated to the Archangel. Built in 969, there is evidence of Roman ruins dating back to the 3rd century. The views of the city of Le Puy and the surrounding valley are absolutely breathtaking. Much of our pilgrimage is undertaken by walking, and in Le Puy by climbing. Take in the view of the surrounding area as you walk around the rock, and imagine the cool stones and the warm breeze. Remember that countless other pilgrims have walked this path, climbed these steps for over 1,000 years. Who may have gone before you? Who might you walk with today or climb with?
Can you mention that Shannon would like to mention?
Built on another volcanic peak, the cathedral, Notre Dame de Puy, is reached by winding through the old walled city. While the small narrow passages twist and turn, we stay on track by ascending with the cathedral ever in our sights. Along the way to the cathedral, we pass numerous shops and restaurants, including our friend Martine, the lace maker. After ascending the city street, we approach the cathedral to make the final climb. It's a special feast day, and the outdoor altar remains set up to celebrate the feast of Corpus Christi. We can pause along the way, take a breath, turn around, and enjoy the view of the city before reaching the entrance of the cavernous church.
I can feel the coolness already.
As we complete the last 60 stairs, we are greeted by the coolness of the opening under the stone archways. Built in the 11th century, the first Sisters of St. Joseph would likely have prayed here at the cathedral frequently. In the mid-10th century, the city of Le Puy is established as one of the routes of the Camino de Santiago de Compostela, or the Way of St. James. Today, dozens of pilgrims still gather daily at the cathedral to begin their journey on foot to Spain. Each pilgrim receives a copy of the New Testament and a medal of the Black Madonna, and all are invited to write their prayer intentions, which are offered at masses in the following weeks. Now that we have taken in the beauty and the history of the city of Le Puy, we turn our attention to our founders, the Sisters of St. Joseph, 6 women who came together in the mid-17th century to respond to the needs of their dear neighbors. As we hear again the story of these foundations, it isn't a stretch to think of parallel conditions in our own times. France had suffered through decades of war, known as the Wars of Religion, and the city of Le Puy experienced great social and political instability, compounded by agricultural famine and the plague. The economic and class disparities of the time left many in poverty with no safety net. The city was truly beleaguered. These ordinary women of deep faith saw this suffering and felt moved to respond, to see what they could do to serve their dear neighbor. They were very practical in their approach as they witnessed this suffering. To find out what the people needed, The women divided the city, went out to the neighborhoods and asked, "What can we do for you? How can we best serve?" And if they could respond to the needs, they would. And if they did not have the resources to address the problem, they would gather others in the community to lend their assistance. This type of active ministry was unheard of for women at the time. Women religious stayed in the cloister. So in order to move freely about the city unnoticed, the sisters dressed in widow's garb. Who were these women that we see on the streets of Le Puy? Anna, Marguerite, Claudia, Anna, and Françoise. And they received guidance and support from Father Jean-Pierre Médaille, a Jesuit priest and traveling preacher. One of the greatest needs the sisters witnessed was the desperate conditions of single and widowed women. The loss of so many men in the war left them with no financial or social protection. The Sisters of St. Joseph could not abide the exploitation and indignities these women faced each day as they did whatever was necessary to provide for their families. The city of Le Puy was known for its craft of bobbin lace making, which was purchased mostly by upper class society. Two of the first Sisters of St. Joseph were lace makers. They invited women and orphans to learn this trade so that they could earn a dignified living and have agency over their own lives. The tradition of lace making continues in Le Puy today. We will walk through a demonstration by the local school where you can see the intricacy and complexity of this skill and the focus and the joy of the student as something new and beautiful is created. As we walk, take a moment to reflect on how our work as educators continues this legacy of developing the capacities of our students so that all can flourish.
Allez, bah, si tu veux, I just put them at
Bon, mais je vais, dites-moi quel est votre numéro, on va s'arranger.
We'll be stopping at a lace shop on another day, maybe tomorrow. And Martine, who's the lace maker in town, that we know, is our friend, will tell you more about this. We're going to be passing the shop.
Near the cathedral was the city hospital and orphanage. One of our sisters ran the hospital and likely lived there. There they received the poor and orphans, and the sisters offered them what they could. At night, after walking the streets of Le Puy and carrying out their ministries, the sisters would gather in this kitchen and share their day. Jean-Pierre Médaille, their Jesuit guide, taught them the 100 maxims for their spiritual practice and encouraged them to reflect on their day together, to see where God was present, and to discern their ongoing call to serve the dear neighbor. This tradition of gathering together and reflecting on their daily experiences continues today with us in the practice of sharing the state of the heart. Imagine yourself in this kitchen, gathering with your colleagues, your friends, your family around the fire, sharing your stories. Feel the coziness of the space, the warmth of the hearth amidst the cold, ancient stones. As another academic year draws to a close and we reflect on our vocation as CSSJ educators, what is on your heart? As we depart the city of Le Puy, we take a moment to imagine those who have gone before us. Who has walked upon these cobblestones? Whose feet have left impressions, felt in lingering energies of deeds done here? Whose feet left imprints of agonies and miseries and joys that remains in memory and fact? Holy ones, soldiers, revolutionists, and poor folk have trod the streets that are still here, though they are gone. The yesterdays call us to remember those who birthed us here. With gratitude, we bow our hearts to the inheritance of love they have left for us to grow in and grow into. This path has voice in the choice some women made long ago. Now the path they took stretches across the earth, and we walk in their footsteps. In the next part of our itinerary, we depart Le Puy and travel about 100 years forward in time and about 50 kilometers to the town of Bassin-Bassé. Here we begin to trace the life story of Jeanne Fontbonne, or Mother St. John Fontbonne, to whom we in the United States trace our foundations. We will share just a few moments of her incredible life of service and leadership, taking us through the towns of Bassin-Bassé, where she was born, through Monestral, Saint-Didier, and Saint-Étienne, and finally to Lyon, where she founded the Mother House. In 1759, Jeanne Fontbonne was born to loving and faithful parents. Jeanne and her sister Marie spent much time at the local convent of the Sisters of St. Joseph, as two of their aunts were sisters there. As teenagers, they went to Le Puy to be educated by the sisters, and they both entered the community, Jeanne at the age of 17 and Marie at 19. Jeanne was recognized at a young age for her maturity, her leadership, and her joyful and loving disposition. The local bishop told the Sisters of St. Joseph, "Form this one well. She will be the glory of your congregation." Jeanne and Marie accompanied their sister aunt to Monestral to open a school and hospital. Jeanne, now Sister St. John, was elected superior in Monestral at the young age of 26. She opened a workshop that gathered women of all classes who came together for religious education, crafts, and community. She becomes known as the Mother of Monestral. The bishop so respected her that he had Mother St. John publicly bless the cornerstone of the hospital seen here. This was unheard of for a woman to have such a public honor. Mother St. John was known to gather with the sisters on the lawn of the convent, encouraging them to take time to relax and to laugh together. It is also in these years that the French Revolution gains momentum, and Mother St. John is forced to take a public stand as the church in France is suppressed. Under the leadership of Mother St. John, the sisters refuse to take the constitutional oath to the revolutionist government. They are expelled from Monestral, ultimately arrested and imprisoned at Saint-Didier. They knew they were facing execution, as 5 other Sisters of St. Joseph had already gone to the guillotine. But history was on their side, and just before their execution date, the sisters were released from prison. For several years, the Sisters of St. Joseph were disbanded, and Jeanne and Marie lived in Bassin-Bassé with their aging parents. As the revolution finally ends and the Catholic Church is restored in France, Mother St. John is called upon to form women as sisters again. She worked tirelessly to reestablish communities across France, and she is re-elected to leadership for over 20 years. She was known to express deep love and care for every sister. She arose early every morning to walk uphill to the small Mary Chapel and pray for her sisters, returning to the convent in time for morning prayer with her community. As you enter this chapel, take a moment of peace and quiet and feel the presence of Mother St. John as she encourages us to continue to meet the needs of our own time. Over the next 3 decades, Mother St. John establishes more than 200 houses of sisters. In the 1830s, she receives a request from Bishop Rosati of St. Louis to send Sisters of St. Joseph to start schools and to educate the deaf. And in 1836, 6 sisters volunteered for this mission, including 2 of Mother St. John's nieces. The 6 sisters settled outside St. Louis and began their ministries in Cahokia and Carondelet. Over the next 50 years, the Sisters of St. Joseph expand and establish ministries from New York to Minnesota, from Canada to Idaho, from New Orleans to California. Most of our communities of Sisters of St. Joseph in the US trace our foundations to those 6 sisters who were missioned by Mother St. John. And as for Mother St. John, she was finally allowed to retire to a life of rest and prayer, and she died in Lyon in 1843 at the age of 84.
Yeah. Just get past you for a second. Sorry. Fill in. I think it would be good to. If it wasn't for all this, the first 6 women and then this woman, we would not be here together. And we would not have these amazing ministries across the world that have changed the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, including us. Today, that's what we celebrate. So we're going to have a moment where we'll each have a flower and a short reading.
They had learned the total emptying of self to be filled with God. These black-robed women who carried their baskets to the poor, bathed the sick, gently tended the wounded, and lovingly gathered together the orphans in their outstretched arms. Uncommon women for an uncommon time. They were not formed by formal rule to be the congregation of the great love of God. The world still needs their kind of loving. Getting home, Jesus. Getting home, Jesus. Someday yourself,
Thank you for entering into this time of travel and reflection. It is a privilege to be a part of your journey. Let us continue to be pilgrims on the way to a world that is transformed by our charism of unifying love.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing that with us. As you can see in the chat, you're bringing back lots of good memories from those who have had the privilege and honor of being in Le Puy. It is quite a special place. As those of us who have been there know, it's a spiritual journey, and the recording that you just shared brings us back to that place. And for those that haven't been there, I hope that this sparks awe and wonder, even more so, of the charism of the Sisters of St. Joseph, and invites you to consider your own pilgrimage in the future to Le Puy yourself. Shannon, do you want we have some time. Can we do some questions and answers?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments. This was the first time we've actually used this 360-degree photography that Angela captured in 2019. So this is kind of a debut. So from the pilgrimage perspective, or even the presentation perspective, if anybody has questions, we'd be happy to take them.
So Shannon, this is Dave Armstrong. I was wondering, is there a certain time of year that the lace makers show their work on the streets? That wasn't happening when I was there.
That was just our lucky day. So my understanding is that local school attracts, students from all over the world, and they come and do like a 6 or 8 week or 10-week course. And then at the end of the course, they do a public street exhibition like we saw. We just happened to be there that day. So, but I do think it's something you could contact the school when you arrange your own pilgrimage, just to see if it happens to coincide. They will also schedule a demonstration for a group. So you can do that as well. And then we usually go to Martine, our friend there, and she will do a much more up close demonstration of lace making as well. So there's lots of options to get a good demonstration. But that was particularly fun.
Yeah, it looked like fun. Thank you.
Are there other questions from the group?
Shannon, you asked about the 360 view, and it was very authentic. I remember looking over the edge and thinking, this is a little too close to the edge for me. And I captured that in your 360 view, that sense of, whoa, particularly where it jutted out and it there barely had space for one person to get by, that one part there. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, Angela really captured it. I don't know if you've ever seen a 360 camera. It's just on a pole. So it doesn't take up a lot of room, and she can just turn and swivel around. And on that note, just to reveal our secrets, we did just, that was pre-recorded. You probably figured, we figured that would be technologically most smooth. So Angela did the manipulation herself in advance and recorded that. But we are able to provide links for you. We have several of these. Those are just their videos that we uploaded to YouTube. So we have like a 60-second clip on YouTube of the kitchen, for example. And so we can share those links with you, and then you can go and, just like on Google Maps or whatever, you can manipulate it yourself in your own time. And we're happy to share those clips with everyone so that you can do a little more exploration on your own. Barbara's asking about our next pilgrimage. Barbara, we really hope to go next summer, 2022. There was, in my remarks that I shared with Martha, it was 2020. We got shut down about 2 weeks before we were supposed to go in March with students. So we hope to take a student group in 2022, and then our next faculty staff trip in early June of 2022, God willing.
Shannon, can I just add also, if others are thinking of this kind of thing, we also invite our alums and our trustees to come with us. And so it's really been nice. The chair of our board was on that last pilgrimage. He was in some of the footage, but it's really nice to have trustees also join in this kind of opportunity.
Do you
Yes,
have footage inside the chapel on the top of the Chapel Saint Michel?
We do. We just couldn't show it all, but we do have a clip of the inside of Mont Saint Michel that we'd be happy to share.
Is anything being done with Mother St. John Fontain's, the home she grew up in?
Anne, would you like to share about that?
I would love to. Yes, we've actually done some renovations of the home to make it Mount St. Mary's. For those who don't know, we bought the house back in 2019. And we were on our last pilgrimage there. It was for sale, which were 2 years, actually 2018 we bought it, and we consecrated it in 2019 with a beautiful blessing. And now it will be used. We haven't been able to be there, of course, during COVID. But when we reopen, France reopens, the United States reopens, it is being used for pilgrimages. It will be also used as sort of a house of study, if you will. Faculty can use it for a mini sabbatical. We're going to have some courses that will take place in Basson-Bassé as the center, as the home base. And there's some other housing in Basson-Bassé that would accommodate students. The house itself is not large enough to accommodate a large group overnight, but we have just done some renovations. Those who have been in the house, remember there was one bathroom that was pretty outdated. There are now 2 bathrooms, and we've done some updates to make it a little more hospitable and where we can welcome more people for a day or a period. So it will be well used, and we already have our faculty, of course, booking, as you can imagine, because people really want to get there and explore.
Thank you.
I think Meredith put in the chat some of our social media. We've been conducting this oral history project of our sisters. And so we've interviewed a number of over 65 of our sisters, and we create educational and videos for them, and then also make those available for research, the transcripts. But we also included the pilgrimage as part of that experience. And we do have videos specifically specific about our pilgrimages to France, but also about the house. So Meredith, I think, just put our YouTube channel there, and you can go there and you can see a couple videos about Mother St. John's home and what Mount St. Mary's has done with it.
And I'd also add that if you are going on a group pilgrimage from your institutions, you are able to access the home through the International Center. So the Sisters of St. Joseph at the International Center in Le Puy, they are able to, depending on availability, bring groups there. And so they have access to the house as well. It's just always a scheduling issue, but that's something else that's possible for you, not only to just, some of us used to go for years and just have our picture taken outside, but if the sisters if they can host you, they would be able to take you into the house.
This is Becky from St. Kate's. We took a group of 20 faculty, staff, and students in COVID makes you lose your track of years, I think in 2019, and then had another group that we had to cancel. But I would really encourage, I think the 20 of us, and then we were lucky enough, if Sister Joan is still on, we had Sister Joan and then Kitty
Hanley.
Yes, Kitty Hanley. Because they were kind of our spiritual guides for the week that we were there during spring break. But when we were talking about the charism, I think it's so important just to, over time, slowly have people understand, because there's nothing like being there and just experiencing it. And, that kitchen table, being in the kitchen together is such a good image going forward. So I hope we can continue it too. And I think too, for the association of all 9 schools, there's also a separate trip that happened once, I think, where 2 representatives from each school, students went, which I think is really good. And to slowly over time build the number of people on the campus who have gone from various disciplines. I think that's the way you really infuse it into the curriculum and into the water system of the institution. So thank you so much, Shannon. It was a great memory. It was just a great week.
Becky, it was a privilege to be there with you on it. And I know the one we did for ACSSJ that Martha was with us on, that had 2 students from each of the 9 schools. I can't speak for the other schools, but the 2 students who went from St. Rose came back on fire about the charism, and it was just an amazing experience to watch.
And if I could I agree, Becky, and this is, Anne realized, like I said, very quickly, this is an incredible formation opportunity, and it's transformative. Ours is 9 days with the faculty staff. We'll do maybe 7 days with the students over spring break, but we now have, after 4 years, we have this kind of cohort of people who strongly identify with the spirit of the founders and have infused it, whatever their work is, whatever their discipline, whatever their role at the university. And it is, we have like about 40 or 50 people now, and it makes a huge difference. It's provided this incredible foundation and momentum for, continuing to grow the culture at the Mount.
And Shannon, through the CSJ Institute, brings us all together. So every alumni class joins the others who have gone, and we have a day of reflection or afternoon of reflection on campus, or this past year we did it by Zoom, which was actually really effective because we have representatives from the other LA province ministries, the high schools, also attending the pilgrimage with us. So it's great. So we have this group that comes together, and it's very, very nourishing for all of us in the midst of a semester to come together and think about what that trip meant and how it's changed our lives.
Well, you have certainly nourished us here today at the National Gathering. We thank you, Shannon. Thank you to the CSJ Institute and the Mount St. Mary's University for sharing this with us.